Hi, everyone. This is Tracy from the Fairborn branch of the Greene County Public Library. I'm here today to talk to you about how to actually find a grave. So, let's say you're looking for one, and we're going to look at some different ways you can try to do it. So, let's go ahead and get started. There we go. All right, so let's say you're wanting to actually find the physical grave of somebody who has passed away and you're not quite sure where to start. Got some tips for you how to do it. So, why would you want to actually go find a grave? One of the reasons could be to confirm information. Do you have the right name, dates, relation? Did they have military service? Um, you could use it to confirm information if you have conflicting information, to find new clues. Some of the symbols, inscriptions, things like that, religious affiliation were actually in the headstones. You can find family relationships based on the plots, location of where the plots are, and inscriptions. Families tended to be buried together. Connect with the heritage, like the local contacts, and just the emotional impact of actually being there, and for preservation and documentation of it. So, where do you start looking? One of the best places to start looking is in the newspaper for the obituaries. Here are two different types, and they just say, the funeral services were held Monday, and they're at the Gardner Cemetery. And then this one says the interment was made in the family cemetery near his home. So it gives you an idea of at least where to start. These are usually good places. Obituaries have tons of good information, as well as newspapers. If it doesn't have an actual obituary, there might just be a notice of death with a little blurb. Like this tends to be more of an obituary, and this is more of just a notice. Sometimes it'll just say the person's name, died, and was buried at a family cemetery for a notice. Another place you can look is at the actual death certificate. Here you can see I zoomed in. This is the actual death certificate for this Milton Leroy Munger. And if you look way down here at the bottom, it says burial, cremation, or removal. So I kind of zoomed out, got a little closer here so you can see it. The place is the parish cemetery and when they were actually buried. And then down here it has the funeral home and who buried them. So if perchance you can't figure out which one this is, you might still be able to contact the funeral home if it's a place that is still in business, and they can also provide you information. Another thing you can do is look here at the parish. Parish usually indicates a Catholic burial, so you could look for Catholic burials in this Dayton area or Catholic cemeteries, and that can help you narrow down your search. Next up is online. A lot of obituaries, especially here lately, have the information posted online. It had like the whole services, visitation services, and the final resting place complete with address. It at least gets you in the ballpark for where the cemetery is. This is another good one. This tends to be more recent, say 2000s, 2010 onward. Prior to that, you're going to be looking more into your newspapers and things like that. The actual funeral card could have the information on it. This is when it says interment at St. John's Catholic Cemetery. This may be good, especially if you have it along. Oops, sorry about that. Along with um, a death certificate like this that says at the parish cemetery, it'll say actually where it's at. And if it's a family member and they were all from the same area, if you have one of these, it could give you an idea of who else was at that same cemetery. Wills, sometimes the wills that you can find in the probate court have burial instructions. They don't necessarily have to be followed, but it's usually a person's wish. They'll have the type of what they were looking for and the location of it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the will also indicate that whether the arrangements have been pre-made prior to the person's passing, and it may have those information in it as well because it has a money value associated with it. So it may have all that information. There are, let me, there are different types of burial locations. So, meaning it could be a specific cemetery. These are usually easy to find, like the one that's say at Glen Haven or something like that. It's very clearly spelled out. Keep in mind, cemeteries have changed their names or they have closed. Um, this is especially true when you're looking back at the early 1900s and earlier. Either they have been bought by other people and the cemetery's name has changed, or they have just closed completely. That doesn't mean the graves aren't still there. It just means nobody may be there maintaining records. The other type of location that people can be buried in is a family cemetery. This is very common in rural areas and earlier in history. Um, my family, particularly in Kentucky, has multiple family cemeteries with the same last name. They are not the same cemetery, they are on different parts of the county, but they are all called the same last name. So you might have multiple, say, Blanton cemeteries all within like a 10-mile radius. These are harder to find, and typically just the family takes care of it. So they may be completely overgrown and awful to find right now. Um, Google and all that will help you with that as well. Parish and church cemeteries, um, you have to find the religion of the person who passed away to see if they were buried in a Methodist church or a Catholic church or a Protestant. It just depends on where they were. Um, and then you have to look at, after you've narrowed down their religion, what churches of that denomination were in the area. And then you look at what cemeteries went with that church. Some churches had cemeteries very close to the grounds. Others just had cemeteries that they were associated with that may be in other parts of the area. So, a good way to look at that is look at the church history if you're specifically looking for a church cemetery. Um, and you can usually find it that way. Crematorium, these are usually easy to find. They have the person's name and that kind of thing. Again, names have changed or they've been closed, so you have to kind of pay attention to that. And there's body has been removed too. So back here on this death certificate, down here, variation, cremation, or removal. This means like if they have been taken somewhere else, like if they were visiting somewhere and they passed away in a different state and were brought back to their home state, or they were from an area and were taken back home or to a place that they had lived their life. Um, and then that may just go to a mortuary there, and then it has to be figured out where they're going to be buried after that. So these are all some places to look in physical things. Find a grave is also very good. If the person's died recently, a Google search can help find it. And then once you find where they are, Google searching the cemetery and doing a Google map of the cemetery is really good to help you. Now, let's say you found them in this specific cemetery and the cemetery is still open. You can contact the cemetery and they can actually provide you with exactly where they are in the cemetery. So you can go directly to the grave and not have to wander around and try to find it. That's really good for very large cemeteries, and most of them are still have people working at them that they can help you. The smaller family cemeteries and the smaller parish church cemeteries, those are probably going to be more ones if they are not currently maintained by an organization that you'll have to kind of walk and wander and find, unless you can find it on websites like Find a Grave. Hopefully, this helps you guys in your research, and I hope to see you next time.